77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.
We have on the line now John McLaughlin.
Hey, John.
Who was Trump's pollster and the key element in the strategy that elected Trump in 24. Hi, John. How are you doing?
Hello, Dick. Hello, Doug.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, so, I do vote for President Trump when he's not talking to you.
So answer the question, John. Everybody's asking, will Mandami win?
Right now, because of the Democratic advantage in New York City, the math, just go through the math. There's 70% of the voters in New York City, usually in a general election turnout, are Democrats. He now has their nomination. So for a one-on-one candidate to beat him, that candidate would need 40% of the Democrats to reject him. Think about this, because Donald Trump got almost 30% of the vote in New York City, and Lee Zeldin got over 30%. But you need statewide 35% to win the state. But in the city, when you helped Rudy Giuliani, when he won, there was probably double the amount of Republicans in the city. There's only 15% now. And so the math is like 70 to 15 in rough terms, Democrat to Republican. And right now it's not a one-on-one Giuliani versus the Democrat versus or Bloomberg versus Mark Green. It's you've got a situation where you have three candidates, whether it's Andrew Cuomo on the independent line or Eric Adams on an independent line or Curtis Sliwa on a Republican line. And then you have there's a candidate on the Conservative Party line. There's this independent Tim Walden. He's got another line. Mandami has the Democrat line. So he only needs like three-quarters of the Democrats, about 75% to get over 50%. And with his opposition scattered, he could win with less than that. So we're in a very dangerous time because all the radical positions that you're talking about, I mean, we're talking about a guy who could legalize prostitution. He could legalize drug use. He could, he's not. And when you talk about, he's not talking about like reducing the number of cops or defunding the police. He's talking about keeping criminal illegals in New York City. So the slogan.
He said that he wants to be the Fidel Castro of New York City.
No, he actually used the guy's name, Fidel Castro, really.
Right.
Yeah. So we got it. You've got it. And you made a point. He wasn't at the Pride Parade yesterday because he's in a religion that, like you said, they kill people who happen to be gay or lesbian or whatever. So you're dealing with a really radical candidate that right now we have to inform a lot of misinformed Democrats that they need to vote against him. And Dick, you were a Democrat, and you need a lot in New York State. The reason why you're a good pollster, I'm a good pollster, for years, for decades, to win in New York, you had to win a lot of Democrats over to the Republican line to win. So here we've got to inform these Democrats that they have to reject Mandami, and then you have to see who emerges from the other side as the leading candidate to beat him.
Yeah, I think the reason that Mandami won is that Cuomo is such a flawed candidate. I mean, for God's sakes, you can vote for somebody who willingly put 6,000 people, risk their death and let them die by moving them out of nursing homes and out of hospitals and into nursing homes.
And lied about it later.
And then you got Adams, who was indicted, although dropped, and you have Mandami. So who are you going to vote for? The Holocaust endorser, the genocide perpetrator, or the indicted former mayor, current mayor? And it's a very bad field. And Curtis is obviously the only good one. His background in fighting crime, he has normal values, and he'll be a good mayor of New York.
How do we get the liberals to vote for him, to like him? How does that happen?
Well, it's kind of the way Mondami got where he was, because back in January, I did a poll for Betsy McCoy with her Save Our City C3, and Cuomo had a 49 favorable but a 47 unfavorable among Democrats. And there was this guy, Brad Honan, putting out surveys. I don't know Brad, and he was putting out surveys saying Mondami was in second place but way behind Cuomo. It probably backfired because the leading candidate that Cuomo siphoned up inside of the unfavorables for Cuomo, so that, in effect, Mondami, if he got 44%, well, Cuomo had unfavorables in the high 40s, maybe 50% at the end. So, so who's going to be the leading candidate? It's really important that if it's Sliwa, Adams, or Cuomo, they have to be the one who can beat Mondami, and they have to show that, and the other votes will come to him. Because Honan put out a survey right after the primary saying that Cuomo was tied to him 39-39. Well, tied's not a good spot. And they said if Adams doesn't run, he was ahead. But that poll didn't disclose party or age or race. And if you underpolled, say if you had too many older voters and too younger voters, chances are Mondami's ahead. That would have skewed the poll in Cuomo's favor. If you had too few Democrats, it would have skewed the poll in Cuomo's favor. So you really
I had a theory that I want to return to now, that the way to survive in New York politics is for the race not to be about you. Right. If the race is about you, you're going to lose. Right. If you can make the race about your opponent, you have a chance to win.
And how bad they are?
Yeah. And in this case, if the race is about Mondami, there's no way he's going to win. But if the race is about Cuomo,
interesting.
If it's about Sliwa, if it's about Sliwa, if it's about Adams, then they have a chance to win.
Interesting.
The problem is it has to be about one of them for them to have a shot at winning. But right now, the first step is to make this race about Mondami. And we're doing that now. We're working hard at that. And I hope that in the next polling, Mondami has 60 or 70% unfavorable, which is what he deserves. And then we can at leisure pick a good mayor for New York. But otherwise, this guy threatens to totally destroy New York City. I don't mean underfunded. I don't mean cut back services. I mean destroy it. New York City is created by an act of will, by investors and Wall Street and real estate and businessmen. And if they leave New York, it's over. And there's no way we can rekindle that. And yet we have that threat facing us.
Wow. Yeah, but you know what New York's more about? New York's more about the outer boroughs, the working class. Like when I was young, I grew up in the Bronx. And I always kid President Trump because, he'll talk about, like, we were going to lose Manhattan in the 2016 primary. And I said, look, you grew up in Queens. I grew up in the Bronx. Manhattan Republicans don't really like us. So I said, but you got to understand, it's the working classes in the outer boroughs that make up the backbone of New York. And Mondami got less than half the Democrats to vote for him. But what is he going to do to the working class homeowners in Jamaica, Queens? When's he going to raise their property taxes? When's he going to? He's going to raise taxes on everybody, collapse the services. You won't be safe.
He just said he would raise taxes more in white neighborhoods than in other neighborhoods.
How does he get away with that?
I don't believe him, Dick, because he's going to raise taxes on everybody.
Right.
But you know what? He said that. Remember, Eric Adams had this week had a Good for Adams press conference on the steps of City Hall with all these African American leaders supporting him because they're the largest, ethnic group. In effect, they're about a quarter of the vote in the city, and you got and you could have a quarter Hispanics, but usually they come out like 15-20%. But by census, they could be the largest groups. So when he says, "I'm going to make white property tax owners pay more money," he's trying to get divide the city by race to benefit himself. And he was trying to take votes from Adams. But, we got to look at him and say, he's going to wreck it for all New Yorkers, regardless of race, color, creed, whatever.
Right.
And again, but New York is really it's the working middle class in the outer boroughs and the immigrants that came here trying to get ahead, trying to succeed, own their own businesses, get their kids to go to good schools, be safe in your communities, not be a victim of crime. Well, Mondami's solutions are really problems.
He wants to slice the New York Police Department, basically eliminate police protection, allow anyone who's arrested for a crime to go free without bail.
So let me understand this. The only people that are going to benefit from this guy are going to be homeless and people on the dole. That sounds like it. And the immigrants, obviously.
And criminals.
And criminals, right.
Like criminals. Yeah. And he's talking about he could legalize prostitution. He's talking about that. He's talking about, which means more human
but being
trafficking.
a Muslim, how can he do that if he's a Muslim?
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know.
And,
I don't know.
and the and his programs, going beyond the program, the whole idea of the leadership of the world's largest Jewish city being anti-Semitic, it means the death of a religion as well as the death of a city. This is the Holocaust on steroids. It's unbelievable. And you think we have a shot to beat him, John?
Only if we create what you said. You hit on the exact thing. We got to raise his negatives over 50%, towards 60, and maybe 70. But once you raise his negatives that high, voters will look for the candidate, the challenger, who's best able to beat him. But that first step's important, to educate them to how wrong this guy would be as mayor. It would be the destruction of New York City.
I think Sliwa makes a lot of sense, but I think that's step two. Step one is to raise Mamdami's negatives.
Right. Which should be easy, Dick, right? That should be really easy to raise that. You just got to get people to listen.
Yeah. Well, it should be. There's enough evidence out there.
And it's an education process. All you have to do is, like he was on Meet the Press today, and he's talking about these radical ideas. All you have to do is get the videotape, put it in digital ads, get it out to the voters, and let them know how radical and how wrong he is for New York City. We've got to stop him.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you, John. Really appreciate you coming on.
77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.